Good evening and welcome to our December GPP member meeting, our last meeting of the year. My name is Darius Evans. I'm Vice President here at Georgia Production Partnership, and I'd like to first acknowledge our immediate past presidents, Trish Taylor and Anissa Bray. I'd also like to acknowledge our hardworking, all-volunteer Board of Directors. With this being our last meeting of the year, GPP would like to wish everyone a happy holidays and a very safe and enjoyable new year. Be on the lookout for some upgrades and some changes to our presentations for 2023, as well as our meeting format. There's a lot of new things that are happening that we are very excited about and excited to roll out to you guys in the new year. So please stay tuned for that. Also, we'd like to announce our upcoming holiday industry mixer. It will be on December the 22nd at 8 p.m. at the Studio Cafe operated by Hanna Brothers down at Trilith Studios. Check out our website for more information and to purchase your tickets for the mixer. We will also have a few announcements from our Industry and Communications Chair, Kimberly Raybon.
Greetings, everybody. I'm Kimberly Raybon, Chair of Industry and Community Relations, hoping that everybody is finding some time to wind down to get into this holiday season. Man, 2022 has been one busy and great year with all of the projects and events that we've had in our state. Man, I mean, it's been a lot. And we were able to catch up with Lee Thomas from the Georgia Film Office, who gave us a snapshot of what the end of the year looks like, as well as reading off our job list. Take it away, Lee.
Hello. Hope everyone is doing well. We're starting to wind down the end of the year, but we still have quite a few projects. So I'm going to go over those first, and then we're going to talk a little bit about how the year went. So in production, we have a TV pilot, A Guide to Murder, which wraps out December 16th. We have Average Joe, which goes through next February. That is a TV series for BET. We have in production a TV movie, A View to Kill For, also goes through mid-December. We have Electric State, which goes through February. An Apple feature called 11, which goes to March. We have Fear the Walking Dead, which is season 8 in Savannah, and they go through March as well. We have a TV series for NBC, Found, season 1 through March. Genius, MLK, they go to March 14th. We have for the CW, a TV series of Gotham Knights, which is season 1. We have a Skydance Apple feature, Holiday Road, which goes through mid-February. An animated TV movie for Comedy Central entitled Jody, which goes through April. An Amazon tentpole feature, Red One, which goes through mid-January. Megalopolis, a feature, which goes to the end of March. We have in production for Comedy Central, Ren and Stimpy season 1 through April. The Idea of You, an Amazon feature. They wrap up mid-December. The Jolliest Special, Elves on Tour, which wraps up at the end of December. A Sony TV series, Them, season 2, goes through mid-December. The Resident season 6, same mid-December. True Lies season 1 is a TV series for CBS, and they go through mid-January. And we have Will Trent, which is Warner Brothers for ABC. That's a television series, and they go through mid-March of next year. So, considering we're in the middle of December practically, and we still have a robust slate of films, it's good news, and we've had a great year. We report our numbers on the fiscal year, so we won't know what that looks like for a while. But I can tell you, because of the announcements that have come out this year, stage-based, we really got to ramp up the production and continue to see the robust slate of films that we've had in the past to be able to keep up all of the new stages that are coming online. If you You know, if you haven't kept up recently, you know, Gray TV has the old Doraville GM plant. They're going to have 29 stages out there. NBC will be the anchor tenant out there. So they will hold a good many of those stages, and they will manage the entire lot. So that's exciting for us. On, you know, on Redan Road, Electric Owl will be coming on early next year. Also, you know, in January, Athena Studios up in Athens should have 350,000 square feet available in January. Also, Savannah College of Art and Design, you know, they're about to roll out what will be the most comprehensive studio backlot of any school in the United States. So that's very exciting. They're doing amazing things in Savannah there. Blackhall Studios, which is now Shadowbox, you know, they are in the process of building 1.7 million additional square feet of space. So the 22 new stages are coming online in their campus next year. Cine Lease, Three Rings, and Trilla Studios and Iwi Screed Jibs all have stage expansions underway. And also one more, if you didn't catch it at the end of October, the former decommissioned Fort Gillem site will become Blue Star Studios, and they are spending $180 million on a 53-acre campus, and they will house 18 sound stages. So, you know, to go from having 45,000 square feet of stage space, you know, before, you know, in 2010, which was Riverwood Studios down in Sonoy, which AMC ended up buying for The Walking Dead, to having more than 3 million square feet of stage space, and then having an additional 4 million plus coming online in the next, you know, 12 to 18 months. It's really an exciting time. You know, we think great things are happening here, continued growth. And so exciting things are ahead of us. Hope everybody has a great holiday season. Hope to see you soon.
Ooh, man, 2023 is going to be epic. All these new studios and new possibilities and opportunities. Man, I cannot wait. And hey, if you're not a member of GPP, now is the time to join. Please make sure to go to our website at georgiaproduction.org and check out our mission. Sign up for our newsletter. Make sure that you stay in tune with our events, because we're going to be doing a lot of new things. And speaking of new things, I'm going to be teaming up with our membership chair, Shelly Smalls, and we're going to be putting together some events outside. Really, guys, we're going to be going back outside, I promise. So make sure that you stay tuned for that. And last but definitely not least, if you want to get the word out about GPP, but not sure how to do it, why not a little stocking stuffer like this right here from one of our members, Loyalty Patch. They're right there on our website at Shop Our Store. Make sure that you check them out, and make sure that you also support Loyalty Patch that are based out of Newnan, Georgia. Well, everyone, make sure that you have a very safe and happy holiday. See you in 2023.
Thank you, Kim. So in lieu of a panel discussion this month, like we did last month, we're going to replay an older discussion that we had that received a great response, and we hope that you'll enjoy it again. Take a look. Thank you.
Welcome, welcome. This month we have a wonderful panel featuring amazing women from Georgia who are, changing the face of production. Our panel today will be moderated by Cass Seegers Beadle from Nina Holiday Productions and also the PGA, Producers Guild of America. Our panelists are Robin Watson from Women in Film and Television Atlanta, Sean Pinkston and Tamika Winborn from the Alliance of Women Directors, and Susan Satterfield, producer, also a member of the PGA. Take it away, Cass.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Georgia Production Partners panel today. Today, we are talking about women in production and how they shape the entertainment industry. We know women shape everything. We shape the world. But today, we're specifically honing on entertainment. And I have 4 amazing women that will help talk about this, the women in the entertainment industry. And I'd love to introduce you to them. Let's start with Miss Tamika Winborn. Introduce yourself, Tamika.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tamika Winborn. I'm the chair of AWD South, and I've been in the film industry for a few years more as an independent filmmaker, and I'm looking forward to the discussion today.
Nice to meet you, Tamika, and thank you for joining us. Let's move on to Sean Pinkston.
Hello, Cass, and hello, everyone. So excited to be here. So yes, my name is Sean Pinkston, and I am privileged to serve and hold the title of founder of AWD Atlanta, which is now AWD South, which Tamika chairs. And I serve in the leadership team supporting Tamika and the entire AWD South team. I am a director, writer, and I also am president and CEO of Seed Time Productions, a local Atlanta production company.
Great. Thank you, Sean, for hanging out with us today. Let's move on to Susan, Miss Susan Satterfield.
Hi, I am happy to be here. Good to see everybody. I am the current vice chair of the Producers Guild of America for the Atlanta region. And my company is Picture Window Productions. So I'm also a proud past president of Women in Film. I'm a writer, producer, and content creator who creates some documentary television and also works on developing feature films.
Very good. Thank you, Susan. And rounding out our fabulous group of women today is Robin Watson. Robin, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, good morning, and thank you. My name is Robin Watson. I am the current president of Women in Film and Television Atlanta. Proud to serve and support women. I call it my side gig is with corporate communications, but I really have a focus on the diversity, equity, and inclusion space, supporting women, and supporting creatives across the board. So I'm happy to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. And like I said earlier, my name is Cass Seegers-Beatles. I am a producer and writer and director in Atlanta, Georgia. I have a company, Nina Holiday Entertainment, and we have been in Atlanta now since 2008, making films. So I am excited to be here with all of you guys and talking, all of you ladies, excuse me, and talking about women in our industry. It's always like this elusive topic, like, ooh, women in the industry, as though we are aliens in this industry. And I find that there's so many of us here in the industry, and I love when we have these conversations so that we can talk about all the things that we're going through, because we're all in sometimes our separate silos, but we're dealing with the same things. So let's start there. I want to talk about Atlanta specifically. All of you ladies are located out of Atlanta. Just give me a brief, give me a brief experience. We'll start with Susan. Talk to me a little bit about your experience as a woman in the industry in Atlanta specifically.
Well, I've been here for a while and I've seen a whole lot of progress. I've been a big advocate for women in the industry, partially based on some of my past experiences. I see every generation really making progress, which is exciting. The generation before me was told that women could not be editors or directors, just period, that just wasn't allowed. And then, I feel like my group has made a lot of progress. I say my group, my generation has made a lot of progress. And one of the things that I love to see is women coming up just are so much more aware, I think, of what boundaries are placed on them and how to break through them. They just don't have the tolerance for the boundaries that have been placed on us in the past. And I think it's an amazing time for women overall. And we have the Women in Production Summit, which our mission is to make Atlanta and Georgia the most inclusive, most women-friendly market in the country. And I think we have a very strong group of women here. and we really support each other. That's what I've seen.
Mhm.
The support is important. I love it. And yes, your Women in Summit, your summit is amazing. And it kind of ties in, like all of you women on the panel in some way, shape, or form work together. So I want to take this to Sean. Sean, what led you to start AWD and really get a footing for that here in Atlanta? Was it the city? Was it the climate? Was it your experience in the industry?
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Atlanta, Southwest Atlanta. Shout out to SWAT. Um, and years ago when I first started, my background is stage. So I started in theater, but my goal was always to work my way from theater to film. And at that time, the Atlanta market was not what it is today, and so the film industry was not what it is today. And so my dream was to move to LA in order for things to happen. And as time went on, and I continued in theater and then finally made that transition to film, I was fortunate enough to realize that even though there was a small pocket, but there was a small pocket of encouraging women doing this work, directing, which is my area of focus, doing this work. And so I realized that I didn't have to move to LA. I just needed to help create opportunities here for women like me wanting to do more of this work. And so now the thing is, we brought a little LA to us because it was while I was making my first feature film that I discovered the Alliance of Women Directors. They are out of LA. Right, the only branch at that time out of LA. And so just through some communication and some badgering, pestering, we finally had the opportunity to open up a branch here in Atlanta, right? But again, I didn't have to move. We didn't have to move. Those of us that are in the Southeast, we didn't have to move, but still we were able to build or share from the resources and from the doors that LA had opened, and to allow us and to really show us how to create those same opportunities here. So what led me to start the organization here and to ask that we be allowed to start a chapter here is that the women that the few women that I knew who was doing this work, and they to me were talented enough and just passionate enough so that to be able to do this work here, to do the same quality work here. And so I just created the opportunity.
I love it. I love your belief in Atlanta. Like, that's the one thing about the A. It's like, man, we ride hard for Atlanta.
Yeah.
And this kind of segues into my next question, which any of you guys can take. Like, as a woman in the industry, you guys, I've worked in different markets. I know I've worked in different markets. How do you feel the Atlanta market differs from other markets as far as when it comes to DEI, when it comes to just women in general? Do you think there's an advantage here in Atlanta, and why?
So I'll speak to that because I actually started with New York Women in Film and Television. I was on the board there for 8 years before me and my family relocated to Atlanta. And I remember thinking, oh, okay, it's good. I'm going to Atlanta. Like, that's the hub for production. And so I immediately wanted to jump on the WIFTA board. And when I got down here, the big difference I saw between New York and I'm going to speak just like on the women working in the industry in New York and here, was that the recognition wasn't given to the women here like it was in New York. And so I immediately said, well, why? Because there's a lot of production, there's a lot of talented women here. I'm a grown woman, but I was naive to the fact that this market is looked at very differently than, of course, New York and LA. And so my immediate thing was to come in and have and kind of model women in film and television Atlanta after the New York chapter. And that meant providing the same level of resources, providing the same kind of programs and programming, and using the women, the members, to kind of be the voices of the industry here in Atlanta. And so I've been down here. I've been on the board for 4 years. Been the president a little over a year. It's a process because while New York and LA and Atlanta, like we're on the mark for like production and stuff, we are still kind of like behind when they think about like the women who are doing the work here. And so it's a matter of anytime we get a chance to kind of recognize the women doing the work and recognize, not just recognize them here in Georgia, like how do I get the women talked about in the LA newsletters or in the New York newsletters or across the country, you know, so I'm involved in with US, which, so any chance I get to like promote Atlanta women, I do. I'm on the board of Women in Film and Television International. Any chance I get to kind of say, look what the women here in Atlanta doing, I do that. But I still think we're just kind of behind this like cloudy lens still for some reason. And I'm just trying to clean that lens off and get our women like working and recognized and honored the same way women in other markets are.
Yeah, then that's a fight. That's
Yes,
all
that's a fight.
I know that's a fight. I know the stigma that Atlanta just has on production as well, or the outside world sometimes has on us, and not to even include the women. Let's just say, so I know that's a fight. Anybody else have a comment on that?
I do. I think also in Atlanta, in the South period, we still are challenged with the above the line positions. There are a lot of crew positions that, you know, many of us in the South can take advantage of, but we're still flying record numbers of people from LA or New York here to do the work. And there's a lot of, a lot of work here that I think we have talented directors here, talented writers here. And so I think also trying to figure out how do we navigate opening those doors, even if it means that we have to create some type of avenue to, you know, hone our skills to get to the studio level, because you only get better as you do the work. And until we have the opportunity, I think we're gonna still, you know, just be pushed out, and it forces women that, you know, it's hard to, if you can't break in, then what do you do? And then you're like, oh, we gotta move to New York, we gotta move to LA. But we would love to keep, you know, people would like to be able to stay here. It's more affordable than living in New York and LA, but we wanna be able to have a sustainable career.
Yeah, I agree. Susan, I have a question to ask you. Because I know this is almost a loaded question. As a woman, and this is kind of getting out of Atlanta, just in general, as a woman, what type of sacrifices and compromises have you had to make in the industry that you know some of your male counterparts may not have had to make, and how did you handle that? How did you handle those challenges?
Boy, that is a loaded question.
I know.
You know, I early on in my career, I worked as a director's assistant on the first feature film that I had a chance to work on, and I was thrilled at the opportunity. Unfortunately, he turned out to be very much in the sort of Harvey Weinstein mode of behavior. And so it ended up being a not the best experience for me. Fortunately, there was a first assistant director who was a woman who I could confide in, and basically she helped me navigate that situation. But there was nobody to turn to. I mean, there was truly, when you're in, you know, it made me very empathetic and sympathetic to people who have those experiences, because when you are in a position like a PA, or you're in a department where you don't have a lot of power, there often really has been nobody that you can go to and say, hey, this is going on, it's not right, you know? So, so I think, you know, although those kind of experiences can happen to men, it hasn't been nearly as common. And so I was very excited to see the Me Too movement come and some of this stuff start to come out. You can't deal with it until it's out in the open. There have been other times, you know, sometimes you just don't know if it's because you're a woman or not, quite honestly. You don't know. I've been at conferences where guys stay up late with the guys that are selling, and the network executives stay up late at the bar with the guys that are selling, and they're knocking back shots and they sell something at the bar. I've never had that experience. I can't knock back shots and still talk. Um, so I've definitely worked for some networks and seen some situations where there's good old boys who are doing things differently and feeling like we have to just go the extra mile and somehow stand out in our own way without being part of that group. And I just think it's tough. It's been tough. There continues to, we can't say that's gone away. It's not gone away,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
there's definitely more conversation about it. There's more initiatives to get past it. And I think things are getting better.
Yeah, I agree. They are getting, I would agree. I thank you for sharing that story with us. I do agree. Things are getting better. And I think, I'm gonna say a lot, but part of the reason why I think things are getting better is because we have seen this new influx of women executives that are being hired at the top level there, and they are making decisions. They are the ones green lighting these movies for these women that are watching these movies. And we are starting to see some diversification in the higher levels in what I call that corporate world, because that's very corporate. The networks, the studios, they don't think like us, they don't operate like us. And I love this infiltration that I'm seeing of all of these powerful women that are making these decisions. And so I think that's helped us as creatives a lot. And I know I've had experience with that because, again, it is a boys' game and has been a boy game. I too can't knock back shots. But being on some of these calls or these Zooms as we're in the pandemic, and we'll talk about that, how that has changed everything, has definitely helped when you see a female face and you're not opening a Zoom or you're not going into a meeting and it's all men there. And you think about that, that's in the back of your head, because as a woman, you're like, okay, are they looking at me, physically? Are they respecting what I'm saying out of my head and my mouth? Does anybody else want to just talk about that, just that experience in pitching and being a woman and feeling like, what is that balance of being smart, using your brain, being a woman, just the things, the mental manipulation we have to go through sometimes just to sell a project?
Yeah. Well, I'll speak to one perspective of that, and then just from the lens of an independent filmmaker who, I haven't dealt with all the studio challenges yet. I'll welcome those when they do come. But to that time, I think some of those of us who are similarly in the same situation as I am, making independent film, one of the compromises that I know I've had to make is, choosing to make a living and pursue this dream. And they don't always come together all the time. And so I know for me personally, I've, even over this past year, had to make a decision, thank God for my partner Tamika, to step down because of having to choose to support a business that will support my family, that will ultimately support my dream. So that's compromising right there. But the thing that is encouraging, and that I would encourage other women in production who have the same circumstance as me, is to continue in any little way you can. And so continue writing, continue going to meetings, continue partnership, because I think what turns the wheel for us is those relationships, those partnerships that we can create with other women in the industry, to shadow. And Cass, I think of an opportunity that Terry Vaughn allowed for me, which was very inspirational, to just shadow as she directed a project. And even that, as Tamika spoke to earlier, we learn and we improve our craft by working. And so even being able to shadow another director, even another peer, it still gives us opportunity to advance, in this work.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of things have changed in this world over the last 2 years. As you said, we had this thing called a pandemic that that came over the world and shook up our industry as though our industry needed any more shaking up.
Right.
And it affected a lot of people. Like, it affected a lot of people. I know it affected a lot of, and I mean, it affected men, it affected, families, but women in production. I know I've been on many panels. I've had many conversations. In the PGA, we have these lunch meetings that we talk about how do we move forward, because we're all working from home. Everybody's working from home. As moms, women, wives who work from home, like, we don't get a break now. It's like they're home, the kids are home, the husband's home, the food is home, everything is home. And that is a very crazy balance. That's a very crazy thing to balance. Robin, talk to me about your organization, or the organization you're working with, that has kind of helped women get through this pandemic time.
Yes, so Women in Film, like I said, we're like one of 44 chapters. So the first thing when COVID hit is we immediately said, okay, what's each chapter doing? How are you helping your members? So we pulled together, like on our website, we had like COVID resources, and it could be anything from, just like you said, how to deal with, like some ideas or tactics or things to do, just dealing with the kids home, the husband home, like the fear of COVID with, with your family. So resources for that. Then we had like some more tactical things, which were, we partnered with New York Women in Film and Television and with LA to start the Hire Her Back campaign. And it really was a campaign around getting women back to work when this thing finally could come back to work, right? But in the meantime, like, how do we support our members? And so there was a fund created of over $300,000 for members to use. It was a short form, you filled it out, you talked about like, what you needed the money for, kind of thing. And grants were like given to the members. And it could be anything from a finishing grant for a project, or I'm about to, lose my apartment and I'm $500 short to kind of stay in there for the rest of the year. I need that money. So there was kind of like guidelines, but like no real guidelines. And it really just was a way for women in film to kind of help their members. And that was a huge deal for us. And we had like 2 rounds of grants, because thankfully the people in the industry were like, I want to donate to that fund to help the women. So again, we had like 2 rounds, and it worked out really well. But I think for broadly, it was just better for like women to see that there were other women just kind of like supporting them. Like you weren't going through this alone. We know women in this industry were disproportionately impacted by COVID, right? And so we quickly were able to kind of pull together resources and get something done. And that's the beauty of like Women in Film organization.
Oh, I love it. I love that. And is that still going? Is that still ongoing right now?
So we depleted the fund last fall, thinking, oh, COVID's, dying down, and, like, so there are actually some talk to kind of figure out like, okay, so now when things are kind of happening, opening up, women are working, like, so what's the kind of Hire Her Back round 2 of it? Like, how do we kind of keep women going as they're going back to work? Because of the pandemic hurt people. So this past 2 years, it's not just because you're back to work doesn't mean like you're caught up. So we're trying to figure out like, what does that look like? And even if like there's some talk, like even if each chapter kind of has to have a piece of that to do just for their membership, specifically, let's do it. Let's figure out how do we continue to support the women until this thing kind of like dies down and goes away.
Love it. It's all about support. I think that is, again, an
Yeah.
advantage women have. You know, we do support each other. We do. When we're
Absolutely.
involved and we learn about things that's happening, we galvanize and we figure it out. Just that's our nature as women in general. What are some other tools that any of you other ladies you want to talk about, or tools or maybe organizations that have been very advantageous to women in production, and just as a woman in production, you may have used personally or you know about?
Well, I know for AWD South, one opportunity that availed itself during the pandemic was a more cohesive relationship between AWD LA and AWD South. And so one of the challenges that we faced were all of the studio opportunities were in LA, all of the face-to-face workshops were there. And so when COVID changed all of our lives, it opened up now opportunities for us to be involved since the whole world moved to Zoom. Yeah, that wall now, that barrier was broken, and so both organizations, our organizations in both branches, got very creative now on how to support all of our members as a whole. And one great thing that came out of that is BDAI, which I'll let Tamika talk about, which she chairs, and then also the coaching opportunity that availed itself for our directors, which is an amazing experience. So Tamika, you want to talk about?
Yeah. So right after George Floyd was murdered, we got together and we were talking about not just like the injustices in the world, but particularly how Black women particularly impacted. We come to filmmaking with less resources, less connections, oftentimes less training. So we were like, how do we really make a difference? Don't let this just be lip service. So we met, and then we came up with the Black Directors Advancement Initiative, and where we partnered 35 women with 35 industry professionals, people working in the industry. If you were looking more at the director, all of us were directors, but some people were looking more for development, some people were looking. And so we partnered 35 women, and that was really huge because oftentimes, especially in the indie space, you don't have those relationships. Right. And relationships are important. We understand that in order for opportunities to come, it's not usually by the merit of your work, it's usually by who you know. So that has been really helpful for a lot of our members this year. And then on top of that, we were funded by the Hirsch Foundation for last year to provide professional coaching to our women as well. And so that has been really, and I remember one time listening to a podcast and with Kat Candler, and I was like, oh my God, I wish I could afford a professional coach, because she talked about how it really took her career to the next level. And I couldn't afford it. I just could not afford it. And so this opportunity through AWD was really amazing. And so working with these coaches, I can see a shift even in my thought process. And so what we would like to do is continue to offer, not just our Black directors, but also all this, like our unrepresented communities, because most of us struggle with finances or resources or whatever that looks like, that does not allow us to, we're not even gonna talk about fairness. We'll just talk about having any type of advantage, so that's one of the things that we are gonna continue to work on with AWD as well.
Right.
So I think that, oh, I'm sorry, Susan.
No, I was gonna say, what you were saying, Susan? Sorry.
I was just gonna put you on the spot, Cass, because as the head of the Women's Impact Network for the Producers Guild, I thought you might want to mention our every other week conferences that we've had, where to the point of having mentors and people you can turn to. It's a hive mind of women, which I've found super helpful.
It's been super helpful. As she said, the PGA, the Women Impact Network, which is a part of the PGA, which is Producers Guild. We meet every 2 weeks, every other week. We've been meeting, and it started during the pandemic. And it started off as just a mental, let's just talk because we need to talk to somebody. Everybody was trapped in their houses. And it just turned into this amazing network of not just women, it's kind of women led, but it's not just women, of producers. And we have guests that come and speak every other week, or every other week when we meet. And it's just been amazing, the network, the connections, because like you said, we don't get jobs. There's no one board where we can go to and like, oh, okay, let me just click and get this job. That's just not how our world works, which is always so crazy because I know you guys always get the question like, how do I get in? How do I get in?
Right,
and I'm like,
right.
you just have to be in. It's such a game.
Right,
It's so unfair. But no, the PGA has done this, and Linda Evans has done an amazing job of just kind of spearheading that and keeping it going. I am so happy to be one of the chairs and involved with this with them every other week. And we're looking for amazing guests. So we've had some great people on network heads where people have gotten their direct contacts to pitch, which of course is amazing. And just, just a very myriad of people, from stunt people to somewhat about licensing. We've had legal experts. So it's just been an amazing experience, which again came out through the pandemic. It's because this Zoom world, the pandemic world, brought everybody together. Like I no longer have to fly to LA for pitches because everybody's at home. And I love it. I love that this horrible thing has brought everybody together. So just not just in our industry, just in general, it's really just giving people this empathetic heart to put everybody almost on a level playing ground, so to speak. And we needed that definitely in our industry and definitely in Atlanta, just with our LA and New York partners who, sometimes Atlanta's a little stepchild, but we're doing amazing, great things here. And I refuse to take that tag and that label. And you guys are a part of why we refuse to take it. Is there anything else that we would love to talk about just in Atlanta specific before we kind of start wrapping up this conversation about the amazing things? Like, tell me some of the stuff you guys are passionate about seeing happening either in the industry within the Atlanta or outside of Atlanta.
Yeah, so for me, since I'm not really a creative, what I'm passionate about seeing the women's groups like coming together, coming back together. Like I think the last 2 years for our members have been really hard because what they used to do every month, we'd do something, right? There'd be a get together. So just kind of like the getting together. Look, I love seeing all your faces on these little squares, but at the end of the day, it's about like being in person and, being able to talk to them and kind of, touch them and give hugs. We did our 3 signature events, this past fall. We did our gala, which was in person, and we had a virtual experience as well. And I got to tell you, like, just getting the women together, it was a smaller group, but it made such an impact. And, one of the things that I'm looking forward to this year is like getting back together with women, how big or small, however many women have to be in the room. I know we're doing something with Women in Production Summit. I would love for, to connect with you ladies as well for your organizations, just to talk about how do we do things? How do we get back together again? Because that's when projects will start getting talked about and women will start working and experiences will be shared and we'll start connecting people more and things will start getting back to whatever normal is. So.
Yeah, and I'm with Robin on that all the way. The one thing that I look forward to, Robin, too, is our organizations connecting together. And you say, talking about our experiences, talking about our projects, because again, that's what keeps us alive in this industry, just talking. the one thing that I would share with directors is that, as a director specifically, we hone our skills by working. And so not necessarily just on our project. So the goal is that when life is better, if I'm not working on my project, then I'm working on Tamika's project, right? I'm working with Cass sweeping trash because the set needs to stay clean, whatever it is, but I'm still able to see that work being done. I'm still able to learn and collaborate, with other women in production. So it's the teamwork, and it's the building relationships cross organizations, where I think we begin to make the change, just as you spoke to, Cass. We're wearing different hats. But as we come together now and we open up and we're willing to share the resources that we have individually and bring those to the table, what can we not do?
Right. I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah.
And because I think for us, we're also looking at, because when you're in Atlanta is a big market, right? And so we also want to be inclusive to those women in Alabama, Mississippi, the southern states, because I remember feeling isolated. I was on my journey, and I was like, gosh, nobody understands my family, just get a job,
Right.
Just get a job, and so, being able to network and speak with other women working in the industry was very important. And not only do I feel like, it helps you, in your career, but I think also just like a sisterhood. I feel like a lot of the women that we have met that I've met through AWD, even when life was happening, we rallied around one another, especially in the pandemic. Some people lost family members, some people, contracted COVID themselves, and we came together for one another, and that was so important. And so a lot of times, even when I'm talking to women about joining not just AWD, but any organization, is that the community is important. We're going to learn what we need to learn to become good filmmakers or excel at what we already great at, but we need each other. And so, and especially as women, I think that, there's a difference, when we're talking about, I'm a single person, but many of you are married. So when you're talking about that balance of work-life balance, sometimes men don't have that to have to deal with coming home to cook and all that stuff. As a single woman, trying to be supportive of your family, but trying to navigate finances alone when you're the only person that has money. So for me, it's but when you're in a community of, whether it's any of these wonderful communities, it's someone just like you. So you get to come together and you don't feel alone. You feel oh, it's not just me. Okay, how do we work through this, or how do we support one another as we're going through whatever challenges? And that is really important, because mentally, this work is hard. So in order for us to get to that next level, to stay on that level, we have to support our mental health, and we need each other to do that, just
absolutely
make sure that we are supportive of one another. And that's where the community comes in these organizations.
Yeah. And I want to share a true story about how Susan, Miss Satterfield here, helped me. My next feature film is 2 women, and Susan was one of the first to read it. And she gave me some excellent feedback. And I have made all those changes, Susan. Just so you know, it's much stronger and much better. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm really glad you're pushing forward with it. It was a great idea, and you got the talent. You'll do it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mentorship, that's important. As we wrap up here, I want to ask you ladies about, parting words, advice, inspiration, affirmations. I'll start with mine. Get a mentor. I'm a mentor. I have a bunch of babies. I call them my babies. They're growing up. My babies are in their 30s now. And I'm just what does that mean about me?
Right.
They were at Spelman. What happened? They're in their 30s and they're getting married and having babies. I have my babies that I help write and I help teach, and just to help open the door, because again, what's it for? We're kicking these doors open, and if we don't bring somebody else through the door, then they just close. They just close again, and all the work that we've done is in vain. So I know a lot of you ladies here are mentors. I am a mentor. Sean, I definitely have to talk to you about your program, because I just shot a feature in November, and I could have had someone shadowing me, and I just, please follow up with me. Just
We will.
stay on my radar, because I forget. The side note, you'll have to edit this part out, but I just forget. And but I want to so help and be involved and bring young directors in. So we'll definitely talk, because I have something else coming up. But that would be my advice. My advice would be get a mentor, be a mentor, get a mentor. Just the connectivity is so important. We've got to like pull and pull from both sides. Yeah. But any other advice that you guys would have to give to our people watching?
I have something that I'm always working on myself, which is let people know, brag. I mean, that's it's we hate that word, and there's something else we can call it. But talking to Robin's point about recognition and how New York, WIF has done such a good job of recognizing women, and we just really need to brag on each other. We need to let people know what we're doing. I can be the worst at that, and I have had a business coach who was like, I don't have one right now, but I've had business coaches like just wagging her finger at me, telling me I need to do a better job. As I think as women, we tend to not want to like put ourselves out there and really just tell people what we can do, but it's really important, especially in this business. And if you don't talk about yourself, sometimes nobody else is going to.
Yep. I'm the worst. I might have you beat, Susan. I promise you, people go to my IMDb, they were like, what? I'm like, yeah, I wrote, like what is that? It's the worst, because, growing up, it's like you're taught to be humble and, humility at this, but it's not, that does not work for you in this business. This is a business where you have to be the Kanye of your world and constantly talk about yourself. And I have to do it too, because I'm the worst, and PR is too expensive. It's like, why do I need PR every month? Why am I paying that container?
Right. So since you don't have PR, what you need to do is brag, right? And when you're in groups with other women, definitely brag. And and any woman who sees that as if, oh, she's bragging, that's not the right group for you. But definitely, like, I would say, connect yourself with one of these groups. Like, there's so many of us here in Atlanta. And again, my goal for Women in Film and Television Atlanta, I feel like that encompasses like we need to umbrella all of your groups, because our members could fit across any one of your organizations, right? And give us, I'm begging people, like Susan said, give us the bragging rights, give us the meat to brag about you. Tell us what you're doing. Come to our events and tell us what you're doing. Tell us how we can help. We have lots of members. There are people we can connect you to. There are people that we're getting better at who aren't necessarily here in Atlanta, who are willing to help the membership here in Atlanta, or the women here in Atlanta. So I agree with both of you. Brag, do what you got to do. Tell us what you're doing.
That's right. So good. So good. And I second that, Robin. So if you are, I just encourage any creative person, any person in production. My husband just asked me the question just this morning: who can tell you that you're not a filmmaker? No one can tell me that I'm not a filmmaker. Right? And so the encouragement is join a group, get connected, join a group.
And I think my last words would be study. A lot of times, like, there's so much stuff online for free, or podcasts, that, you can get good information. And I am not shy. So I will, like, when I see someone and they are having an interview, I have no problem emailing them like, hi, my name is Tamika.
Right.
And I have
Right.
had so many people, like I'll reach out and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. And they'll, I'll let me schedule time, and so I don't
Mhm.
mind asking, but you have not if you ask not.
That's
And
right.
so
Right.
if you do
Right.
not, like you have to take the time to get to know people. But I heard someone say this, most importantly, you have to make people get to know you.
Mhm.
So
Exactly.
make sure that you do the networking. Networking is so key to our business, regardless of what level you're on. It's always you network laterally, but you network above. And that's how we continue to grow. So I'm excited to be amongst these beautiful women today because now I know a few more people.
I know, it's great.
Well,
Awesome.
thank you, ladies. This has been amazing. This has been an amazing talk. Hopefully, everybody got some gems and nuggets. And if you didn't know how women shape the entertainment industry, you know now. And I'm so happy and so grateful and thankful to Georgia Production Partners for putting this on and constantly putting on amazing panels and events and workshops and clinics. I just think Atlanta is an amazing place to be. It's a definitely a gem. And I've lived in all three major markets, if you want to say. It's definitely something special about it because it is such a unique community. And I love being here and I love seeing the growth that we've had here. And I will continue to see the growth and hopefully we'll all continue to work together and create some good content together and spread it out into the universe.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Love it.
For being here.
Thanks, women.
Thank
This was
you.
great. Thank you.
Thanks. It was great to see everybody.
Thank you for watching. I'm sure we'll see you around at the various holiday events that are happening for the rest of the month. And again, be on the lookout for some exciting new changes from GPP in 2023. Have a great evening.